The cold wilderness stretched forever, white snow and black rocks under a sky full of storms. Winds howled across the land, sharp as knives, carrying flakes that cut the skin like glass. Captain Elias walked alone, his steps slow, his breath heavy, the cold biting into his bones. His ship had crashed hours ago, swallowed by the storm, broken into pieces across the frozen plain. He had survived, but only barely. Now he searched for shelter, for warmth, for anything that could keep him alive one more night. The planet was cruel, not made for human life. Elias had been told it was dangerous, but he had not believed the warnings. He was a scout, a risk-taker, the kind of man who went where others would not. But now, with frozen air in his lungs and death following each step, he wondered if this had been his last mistake. Snow swirled around him, thick, heavy, almost alive. He could not see far, only shadows in the storm. At first he thought he was hearing things. Tricks of the wind, a sound faint and broken. Like a cry, he froze, listening, his hand on the small plasma blade at his belt. The sound came again, weak, pained but real. Someone or something was out there. Elias pushed forward. Following the sound, his boots crunched in deep snow. His eyes narrowed against the storm. The cries grew louder, clearer. They were not human cries, not the voice of any creature he had ever heard. There was music in them, strange and sad, yet filled with pain. The sound pulled him onward until at last he saw her. She was lying in the snow, half buried, her skin pale blue with a faint glow. Her hair shimmered like silver threads, tangled and wet from the storm. Chains bound her wrists and ankles. Heavy metal dug deep into her flesh. She looked fragile, dying. Yet her eyes opened when he stepped closer. Her eyes were large, glowing faintly with light like frozen stars. She tried to rise, but the chains pulled her down. Her voice broke into the storm, soft but urgent. "You, human, come closer." Elias hesitated, every instinct screaming danger. He had seen many strange beings in his travels, but never one like this. She was alien, yes, but she was also beautiful. Her presence was strange, yet something inside him felt drawn to her. Still, he did not trust easily. He kept his blade ready, his body tense. "Who are you?" he demanded. Why are you chained?" Her lips trembled, her breath shallow in the cold. "They left me to die," she whispered. "My people. They cast me out, bound me to the rock, cursed to freeze forever." Elias frowned, suspicious. "If your own people left you, why should I free you?" Her eyes locked on his, and he felt a weight inside his mind. A strange pull. "Because if I die," she said softly, "so will you." The storm roared louder, the wind biting deeper. Elias felt weaker now, as if the cold itself was stealing his strength faster than before. His knees shook, his hands numb, his breath short. He stared at the girl, at the chains, at her glowing eyes. "What do you mean?" he asked. She coughed, blood on her lips, her voice almost gone. "The wilderness. It kills all outsiders, but there is one way to live, one way to fight it." She raised her chained hands, shaking. "You must bind with me, share your life with mine, or you will not see another sunrise." Elias stepped back, fear and confusion battling inside him. He had heard stories of bonds, strange rituals between species, but never believed them. Now the proof lay in front of him. Dying in the snow, his body weakened more each second. His chest heavy, his heart slowing. He realized the storm was not natural. It was alive, and it wanted him dead. And the only shield he had was her. "Why me?" he asked, his voice low. She closed her eyes, pain on her face. "Because the wilderness chose you. And because I have no one else." Her chains rattled as she collapsed fully into the snow. Her glow dimmed, her breath shallow. Elias felt his own chest tighten, as if her fading life was dragging his with it. He dropped to his knees beside her, torn between fear and survival. If he touched her, if he accepted her bond, he might lose his humanity, but if he refused, both of them would die in the storm. The choice cut deep into him, sharper than the freezing wind. The storm screamed above, the snow burning his skin. Elias gritted his teeth, staring at the alien girl chained and dying before him. Her voice, faint as a whisper, reached him one last time. "Bind with me, or the wilderness will take us both." And in that moment, as the storm swallowed them whole, Captain Elias made his choice. The storm did not rest. It screamed above the frozen plain, tearing at the rocks and ice. Elias knelt in the snow beside the alien girl, his chest heavy, his breath sharp, his heart racing. Her eyes glowed faintly, fading like dying stars, her chains heavy with frost. Her whisper still echoed in his ears. Bend with me, or the wilderness will take us both. He had no choice, yet his mind fought the truth. What if it was a trick? What if she was leading him into a trap? But his body told another story. Every second his strength slipped away, as if the storm itself drank his life, and the girl, bound and broken, was the only light in the endless dark. Elias touched the chain with his hand. The metal burned cold. The girl stirred weakly, her lips trembling. "You must give me your hand," she whispered. "Place it over my heart. Let the bond begin." Elias hesitated, his human instinct screaming no. But death was already inside his bones, and survival was all that mattered now. He pulled off his frozen glove, placed his bare hand on her chest. Her skin was strange, smooth like stone, yet alive, pulsing with faint light. A shock went through him, sharp and blinding. He gasped as fire and ice rushed into his veins at the same time. His vision broke apart. He saw flashes, strange skies, alien cities of crystal towers, armies marching under banners of light. He saw the girl, younger, standing proud before her people, before she was chained. He saw betrayal, punishment, exile, and then he saw himself, not through his own eyes, but through hers. "You are mine now," her voice echoed. Inside his head, not his ears, Elias pulled back in fear. But the bond had already started. A mark burned on his wrist, glowing faint blue. The same as her eyes. He stumbled back, breathing hard. What have you done to me?" he demanded. The girl lifted her chained hands, her voice steadier now. "I have shared my life with you, human, and you have shared yours with me. We are bound." As the first binders were long ago, Elias looked at his wrist, glowing against the storm. He felt her heartbeat inside his own chest, a rhythm not his but theirs. Her pain became his pain. Her weakness dragged at his strength, but also, her warmth filled his veins, fighting the cold, pushing back the storm. For the first time since the crash, Elias could breathe without fire in his lungs. The wilderness was still cruel, but it no longer drained him. The girl's voice trembled, but she smiled faintly. "You will live because of me, and I will live because of you." Elias gritted his teeth, torn between anger and relief. "You forced me into this," he growled. Her silver hair whipped in the wind as she lifted her chin. "No, Captain Elias. The wilderness forced you, I only showed the way." Suddenly the storm shifted. The snow parted. Dark shadows moved in the distance, tall, thin figures wrapped in black armor. Their eyes glowed red through the storm, their weapons long and sharp. The girl's body tensed, fear flashing across her face. "They are here," she whispered. "The hunters." Elias drew his plasma blade, its blue light cutting through the dark. "Who are they?" he demanded. Her voice was low, broken. "My people. They hunt me still, and now they will hunt you. They believe killing you will end the bond." The hunters marched closer, slow and sure, their steps heavy in the snow. The storm seemed to bend around them, shielding their path. Elias's grip tightened on his blade, his heart pounding. He was a soldier, a fighter, but never before had he faced enemies tied to his very life. If she died, he would die, and if he fell, she would fall with him. The girl pulled against her chains, her voice sharp with desperation. "Break them," she urged. "Free me. Only then can we fight together." Elias slashed his blade against the frozen metal. Sparks flew, ice cracked. The chains resisted, heavy with strange power. Again he struck, again and again, until at last the chain shattered with a cry of breaking light. The girl gasped, pulling her hands free, her glow brighter now. For a moment, Elias forgot the hunters. He watched as she rose to her feet, taller than he expected, her silver hair streaming in the storm. She was weak, yes, but her eyes burned with fire. Her voice rang with power. "They will not take us," she vowed. The hunters raised their weapons, their voices echoing in a language Elias did not know. The storm raged, the ground shook. The wilderness itself seemed to wait. Elias stood beside her, bound by choice and by force, his blade ready. The girl placed her glowing hand on his arm, and he felt strength flood into him. 2 lives, 1 heartbeat, 1 bond, and together, they faced the shadows in the storm. The wilderness had tried to kill him, but now it had given him something far stranger. Not an ally, not a friend, but a bond that could not be broken. And in the cold, wild night, Captain Elias realized he was no longer alone. The storm screamed over the frozen land, but the hunters' shapes cut through the white haze. Dark shadows moving with deadly purpose. They were tall, thin, wrapped in black armor that glimmered with frost, their red eyes glowing like fire in the snow. They carried long weapons, spears of metal that pulsed with strange light, tools built not just to kill but to tear the bond apart. Elias felt their presence crawl over his skin like cold knives, the bond inside him burning as if warning him of danger. The alien girl, Liara, stood at his side, her breath steady now, her chains broken, her glow brighter in the storm. Yet Elias could see fear in her eyes, a fear that ran deep. The fear of someone who had known these hunters all her life. "They will not stop," she whispered, her voice shaking. "They were sent to make sure I never rise again." Elias tightened his grip on the plasma blade, the light trembling in his hand. "If they want a fight," he growled, "then they'll have one." The hunters advanced in silence, their steps sinking deep into the snow, their weapons humming softly. Elias raised his blade, but Liara grabbed his arm, her touch strong, her eyes sharp. "You cannot fight them alone," she said. "Their strength is not only in weapons, but in the storm itself." Elias stared at her, his teeth clenched. "Then tell me how to beat them." Liara's gaze burned with urgency. "The bond," she said. "You must open yourself to it. Let me share your strength. Let us become one in battle." Elias hesitated. The thought of letting her deeper into his mind filled him with dread. He had already felt her memories, her pain, her exile. What more would he lose if he allowed her in fully? But the hunters were almost upon them, and choice was a luxury he no longer had. "Do it," he said, his voice harsh. "Just don't kill me from the inside." Liara closed her eyes, placed her glowing hand over his chest, and the bond deepened. Elias gasped as a flood of energy surged through him, his vision blazing with light. He felt her heartbeat pounding in rhythm with his, their breaths tied, their thoughts brushing together. Her strength poured into him, and in return his fire kept her standing. For a moment he was not just Elias, not just human. He was something more. The first hunter lunged, spear striking with deadly force. Elias moved faster than he thought possible, his blade clashing against the spear, sparks flying in the storm. The hunter hissed, its red eyes narrowing, pressing forward with inhuman strength, but Elias held his ground, his muscles burning with Liara's energy inside him. Liara raised her hand, light bursting from her palm, striking the second hunter and sending it crashing back into the snow. The bond pulled them together, every movement shared, every strike echoed when Elias slashed. Liara guided his arm when Liara pushed with light. Elias steadied her stance. They fought as one, human and alien. Bound by survival, the hunters snarled, circling them like wolves, their weapons spinning. The storm itself bending to their will, snow whipped harder. The ground shook beneath their steps. The wilderness itself seemed to rage against the bond. "Why do they want you dead?" Elias shouted over the chaos, his blade carving through another spear. Liara's voice was sharp, filled with sorrow. "Because I broke the sacred law. I gave mercy when I was told to kill." Her glow flickered, the bond surging with her emotions. "I chose life over death, and for that they chained me to the wilderness. For eternity." Elias gritted his teeth, fury rising in him. "All this just because you refused to kill?" Liara's eyes flashed. "They fear mercy. They fear change, and now they fear you because you carry my bond." A hunter struck from behind, its spear slicing close, but Elias turned in time, his blade meeting the attack. Pain seared through his side, but he stayed standing. The bond pulsed and Liara gasped, holding her chest where blood appeared on Elias's armor. The wound was his, yet she felt it too. Their pain shared as much as their strength. Elias pushed forward with a roar, his blade blazing in the storm. Liara unleashed a wave of light. Scattering the hunters for a brief moment, they stumbled back, regrouping, their red eyes burning hotter. The storm screamed louder, as if angered by the resistance, snow tearing at their faces, ice cracking under their feet. "We can't win like this," Elias panted. Liara's voice was steady, though her body shook with exhaustion. "We don't need to win. We need to survive." She pointed toward the dark horizon where jagged mountains rose like teeth. "The ice caves, and there we will find shelter." And answers. The hunters closed in again, their spears glowing, their pace quickening. Elias grabbed Liara's hand, their bond flaring with light. Together they ran, their steps pounding the snow, the storm chasing them, hunters at their heels. The wilderness itself roared with rage, as if it hated the bond that refused to break. They ran into the dark, the caves waiting like a mouth in the mountains. The hunters' cries echoed behind them, sharp and cruel, promising no mercy. But Elias did not stop, his heart beating with hers. his strength tied to her glow. The wilderness had thrown hunters at them, but it had also given them the bond, and for the first time Elias believed maybe, just maybe, they could survive. The storm raged, the hunters pursued, and the caves loomed closer, but deep inside, Elias knew, whatever waited in the dark caves might be more dangerous than the hunters themselves. The storm howled behind them, but Elias and Liara pushed forward, their legs burning as they reached the jagged cliffs. The hunters' cries echoed in the storm, sharp and merciless, but the caves waited ahead like black mouths in the ice. Snow and wind whipped at Elias's face, but he did not stop. His hand locked tightly with Liara's glowing fingers, their bond pulling them onward. At last they crossed the final slope, stumbling into the shadow of the mountains, and there the entrance yawned, a dark crack in the ice wide enough to swallow them whole. Without hesitation, Elias pulled her inside, the storm cutting off behind them like a door slamming shut. Inside was silence, heavy and strange, the sound of dripping water echoing in the dark. Elias lifted his plasma blade, its blue glow casting light across the frozen walls. The ice shimmered like glass, deep veins of silver light twisting within it. The cave was not natural, it felt carved, shaped, as if ancient hands had made it long before either of them was born. Liara's breath caught, her glowing eyes wide. "This place," she whispered, her voice trembling. "These are the caves of the first binders." Elias frowned, his blade steady, his eyes scanning the walls. "You've been here before?" Liara shook her head, silver hair brushing her shoulders. "No, but I was taught the stories. The first binders were those who joined with humans. Long ago, when your kind first touched the stars." Elias stiffened, his heart quickening. "You're telling me this bond, this thing between us, it has happened before?" Liara stepped closer to the wall, her hand brushing over the glowing veins in the ice. "Yes," she whispered, "and it was feared by my people, for the first binders were powerful, too powerful, stronger than either human or alien alone." Her voice dropped lower. "They say it brought war, fire, and betrayal." Elias clenched his jaw, his wrist still glowing faintly with the bond mark. "So now I'm part of some ancient curse," he muttered. Liara turned, her face pale, her voice soft but certain. "No, Elias, you are part of an ancient promise." They moved deeper, their footsteps echoing in the frozen tunnels. Strange symbols began to appear on the walls, carved deep into the ice, glowing faint blue. The symbols were alive, shifting, bending as though they were written in light rather than stone. Elias frowned, unable to read them, but Liara's eyes followed every curve, her lips moving as she whispered translations. "Two lives bound as one," she read, her voice echoing in the hollow space. "Their hearts will beat together, their breath will rise together, and their deaths will fall together." She touched another line, her hand trembling. "The wilderness will test them. The hunters will chase them, but only in unity will they endure." Elias's grip on his blade tightened. "So we're not the first," he said, "and if this is true, then maybe we won't be the last." Liara nodded, though her face was shadowed with worry. "Yes, but many who came before us failed. The deeper they walked, the warmer it became, the ice glowing brighter with each step. Soon they entered a vast chamber, its ceiling so high it disappeared into darkness. In the center of the chamber stood a stone altar, half buried in ice. Upon it lay skeletons, one human, one alien, their hands still clasped even in death. Their bones glowed faintly, the same blue light that pulsed in Elias's wrist and in Liara's heart. Elias froze, staring at the sight. The silence was heavy, broken only by the faint hum of the ice walls. Liara's face was pale, sorrow written in her eyes. "They were like us," she whispered, "bound together. But they did not survive." Elias stepped closer, his breath heavy in the strange warmth of the chamber. "What killed them?" he asked, his voice low. Liara shook her head, her eyes flickering with fear. "Not time, not the wilderness, something else." Her words trailed into silence, as if the walls themselves listened. Suddenly, the ice beneath the altar cracked with a deep groan. The skeletons shifted, dust falling from their bones. Elias raised his blade, his heart pounding. The chamber trembled, the walls glowing brighter, the symbols flaring with light. Liara stepped back, her voice shaking. "They have awakened the guardian." From the shadows behind the altar, a massive shape began to rise. Its body was carved of ice and stone, its eyes glowing with fire. The guardian towered above them, ancient and terrible, its voice rumbling like thunder. Another pair bound, another promise broken. It roared, the sound shaking the chamber. Elias tightened his stance, his blade glowing brighter. Liara's hand gripped his arm, their bond surging with fear and strength. The Guardian stepped forward, each movement cracking the ice floor beneath it. "You are not worthy," it thundered. "None have ever been worthy." Elias's voice was steady, even as his heart raced. "Then we'll prove you wrong." The Guardian's eyes blazed. The chamber roared with power, and as Elias and Liara stood side by side, ready to face the trial of the ancient Guardian, the hunters' cries echoed faintly from the cave entrance. Growing louder, closer, they were not alone in the dark. The Guardian's roar still echoed in the vast chamber, its body towering, its fire-lit eyes burning into Elias and Liara. But even as they braced for battle, the sound of the hunters grew louder at the mouth of the cave, their cries sharp, their steps closing in. The wilderness had not given them rest, not even for a moment. Now Elias felt the weight of two threats pressing down on them, the ancient Guardian before them, and the merciless hunters behind. Liara's hand trembled on his arm, her glow flickering. Her eyes, however, were fixed not on the Guardian but on Elias, as if she had something heavy to say. The bond between them pulsed stronger, carrying not just her fear but her hesitation, her guilt. He turned to her sharply, his blade ready. "What are you hiding from me?" Her lips parted, her voice soft as the glow around them dimmed. "There is truth I did not tell," she whispered. "Truth about the bond." Elias's jaw clenched, anger rising. "What truth?" Liara's eyes glistened, her voice breaking. "This bond, it cannot end, Elias. It cannot be undone by time, by distance, or by choice." Her words cut through him like the storm outside. "It is eternal, and only death can break it." Elias staggered back, his chest tight. "You mean I'm chained to you for life?" he shouted, his voice echoing through the chamber, her face twisted with pain, tears forming but not falling. "Yes, and I am chained to you forever." Elias's heart pounded, rage and fear colliding inside him. He thought of Earth, of the stars of freedom, all gone now, all stolen by this alien girl and her desperate ritual. "You tricked me," he growled, his voice hard. "You let me believe this was survival, but it was a prison." Liara stepped closer, her hands shaking. "No," she pleaded. "I wanted you to live. I wanted us both to live. I did not lie. I only hid the weight of eternity." Elias shook his head, fury in his eyes. "You should have given me a choice." The bond pulsed violently, pain searing through them both. Her sorrow became his sorrow. His anger became her fear. They could not escape each other's feelings. Not now, not ever. Liara clutched her chest, gasping. "If you hate me, I feel it too," she whispered, her voice breaking. "If you wish me dead, I feel that as well." Before Elias could answer, the hunters stormed into the chamber, their black armor shining, their red eyes blazing in the glow of the ice walls. They spread out, surrounding them, their long weapons pointed at Elias. The leader stepped forward, its voice sharp like broken metal. "Human," it hissed. "Your bond is poison, but we will free you." It lowered its spear toward Liara. "Stand aside and you will live." Elias froze, his breath heavy, his blade trembling in his grip. They were offering him what he wanted: freedom, release, the chance to break this chain of eternity. All he had to do was step aside and let them end her life. He glanced at Liara, her glowing eyes wide with fear. Yet steady, she did not beg. She did not plead, she simply met his gaze. "Do what you must," she whispered. The chamber was silent for a moment, the Guardian watching from the shadows, its fire-lit eyes unblinking. Elias's thoughts spun like the storm outside. One path led to freedom, but at the cost of betraying the only one who had saved him. The other path chained him forever but gave him strength and perhaps something more. The hunters pressed closer, their weapons humming. "Choose, human," the leader hissed. "Freedom or the chain?" Elias's hand shook, his blade wavering, his heart torn. Part of him screamed to let go, to take his life back, to break free. But the bond surged inside him, not only with Liara's fear, but with her memories, flashes of her exile, her mercy, her pain. He saw her chained in the storm, abandoned by her people, alone for years. And he saw himself, not as a prisoner, but as the only one who had stood by her side. His blade steadied, his voice rang through the chamber. "No," he growled, his eyes burning. You want her? You'll have to go through me. The hunters hissed in rage, their weapons raised. Liara gasped, her glow flaring with hope. The bond surged stronger than ever, not with fear, but with unity. Pain and doubt still lived in Elias's heart. But choice had been made. He would not betray her, and not here. Not now. The leader lunged, its spear blazing with deadly light. Elias met it with his blade, sparks flying, the chamber ringing with the clash. Liara raised her hands, her glow blazing into the walls, the ancient symbols flaring to life. The guardian stirred, its voice shaking the chamber. Another betrayal denied. Another test begun. The ice cracked beneath their feet, the chamber roaring with power. The hunters pressed harder. Elias fought with fury, Liara's light striking with every wave and deep in his chest. Elias knew. The true trial had only just begun. The chamber shook, ice cracking like thunder, as the ancient guardian rose higher, its body carved from stone and frost, its eyes burning like twin suns in the dark. The hunters froze for a moment, their red eyes flickering with fear, for even they knew this creature was not of their command. The guardian's voice rolled through the cave like an avalanche. You fight among yourselves, yet you are bound as one. You dare to carry the mark of the first binders? Elias steadied his blade, his chest rising fast, his heart tied to Liara's through the bond. Liara stood at his side, her glow flickering but strong, her eyes locked on the towering figure. This is the trial, she whispered, her voice trembling. The guardian tests all who carry the bond. None have ever passed. The hunters hissed and circled, but the guardian raised one massive hand, and ice spikes erupted from the ground, blocking their path. Not them, the guardian thundered. Only you two, human in exile. Only together may you face the trial. The hunters snarled, but stepped back, their eyes burning with cruel anticipation, waiting for Elias and Liara to fail. The guardian's body pulsed with fire and frost, and with a roar it struck, a massive arm sweeping across the chamber like a storm. Elias leapt aside, pulling Liara with him, the ground exploding into shards of ice where they had stood. The bond surged, warning Elias before the strike landed, letting him move just in time. For the first time, he understood. The bond was not only life, it was instinct, a guide. Liara raised her hands, her light blasting against the guardian's chest, the ice cracking under the force, but the guardian only roared, its fire burning brighter. Your light is weak, exile, it thundered. Your heart is broken. The bond shuddered, Liara gasping, her knees buckling. Elias caught her, his voice sharp. Stand with me, Liara. Don't fall now. The guardian's second strike came down like a mountain, but Elias met it with his blade, sparks flying as metal clashed against ice. The strength should have crushed him, but Liara poured her energy into him, their bond glowing brighter. Together they held, human and alien against a god of stone. Pain ripped through their bodies, yet neither let go. The guardian's eyes flared, its voice booming. Not enough. You fight as two. Not as one. The bond pulsed painfully, almost tearing. Vision struck Elias's mind. Liara's memories of exile, of chains, of betrayal by her people, and she felt his memories too. Earth. The crash, the rage at being trapped forever. The guardian was forcing them to face each other, to share all, no walls, no secrets. Liara cried out, clutching her chest. I feel your hatred, she gasped. Your anger at me, Elias gritted his teeth, his blade shaking. And I feel your shame. Your guilt, the guardian roared again, ice raining from the ceiling. Until you accept all, you will fail, and you will die. Elias's breath came fast, his rage burning, but the bond pressed deeper. Pulling his heart open, he saw her as she truly was, not just an alien, not just an exile, but a soul chained and broken, punished for mercy, and she saw him, not just a human, not just a soldier, but a man scarred by loss, desperate for freedom, yet unwilling to let another die alone. Their pain became one, their fears shared. And for the first time, the bond did not hurt. It healed. Elias's voice broke through the roar, raw and fierce. I don't hate you, Liara. I hate what was done to us. Liara's eyes burned with light, tears shimmering. And I do not regret binding with you, Elias. I regret only the pain it caused. The bond flared, a surge of power rushing through them both, their hands locking together, their hearts pounding as one. The guardian stepped back, its eyes narrowing as the chamber shook with their glow. You begin to understand, it rumbled. Show me if you are worthy. With a roar, the guardian struck again, but this time Elias and Liara moved as one. His blade slashed with perfect precision as her light poured into it, the strike blazing brighter than fire. They dodged together, their steps one rhythm, their breath one song. The guardian howled as the blade cut through its chest. Light exploding through cracks of ice and stone, it staggered, its massive body splitting with glowing fractures. Elias and Liara pressed forward, their bond blazing like a star. The final strike came not from blade or light, but from both together, his strength, her power, their unity. The guardian roared as its body shattered, collapsing into shards of glowing ice that rained across the chamber. Silence fell, heavy and deep, the hunters watching from the shadows with wide, burning eyes. The guardian's voice lingered, fading like thunder over mountains. You are bound true. You may walk the path. But beware, the bond takes as much as it gives. The glow faded, leaving only the sound of dripping water in the vast chamber. Elias dropped to his knees, his chest heaving, his blade dim in his grip. Liara knelt beside him, her hand on his shoulder, her glow soft but steady. They had survived the trial, but the guardian's warning hung heavy in their hearts. The hunters hissed in rage, their leader stepping forward. You passed the trial, but you will not escape us, it growled, its spear blazing. Elias rose again, his wrist glowing, Liara standing with him, their bond unshaken. For the first time, Elias did not feel human alone. He felt something greater, something dangerous, something eternal. And as the hunters closed in once more, Elias whispered, "Then let's finish this." The hunters moved forward, their spears glowing red in the dim light of the broken chamber. Shards of the fallen guardian still smoked on the ground. Glowing faintly like dying stars, Elias stood tall, his blade steady though his arms shook with exhaustion. Liara stood beside him, her glow faint but unbroken, her hand brushing his, their bond burning brighter than ever. The hunters hissed, their leader raising its weapon. You passed the trial, it spat. But you will not leave this cave alive. Its eyes blazed with fury, yet Elias felt no fear now. The guardian's test had changed him. He was not only human anymore, he was bound, something more, something the hunters could not understand. The bond pulsed, carrying Liara's voice into his thoughts. Soft and fierce at once, we can win, she whispered. But only if we fight as one. To the very end, Elias nodded. No hesitation left. Together then, he murmured. The first hunter lunged. Spear slicing through the air, Elias moved faster than before, his blade flashing, guided by Liara's light. The strike cut deep, the hunter collapsing in the snow-dusted chamber, its body vanishing into shadow. The others cried out, circling, their fury rising. Liara raised her hands, her glow bursting into the air, symbols on the cave walls flaring to life. Light spread through the chamber, weaving patterns of power. Elias felt it surge through his chest. His arms, his blade. Her strength was his, and his will was hers. They fought as one, human and alien, no longer separate, but a single force. One by one the hunters fell, their weapons shattering under the weight of unity. The leader fought hardest, its spear clashing with Elias's blade, sparks flying, but Liara poured her light into him, her strength surging through the bond. Elias roared, pushing forward, their strike breaking the spear in two, the leader collapsing with a final hiss. Silence returned, heavy and still, the hunters gone, only the echoes of their battle left in the chamber. Elias lowered his blade, his chest rising and falling, sweat freezing on his skin. Liara staggered, her glow dimming, but Elias caught her, their bond steady. For a long moment they simply stood, breathing together, alive. The cave walls glimmered softly, the symbols fading but not gone. A whisper filled the chamber, faint and ancient, the voice of the guardian. You are the bond now, stronger than the storm, stronger than the hunters, but bound forever. Then silence, leaving only the sound of dripping water in the deep. Elias stared at the fading glow, his jaw tight. He thought of the truth Liara had told him, that this bond was eternal, unbreakable except by death. Part of him still raged against it, still longed for freedom. But as he looked at her, silver hair tangled, her eyes glowing faint even in exhaustion, he felt something stronger than rage. He felt purpose. Liara lifted her gaze to his, her voice soft. You regret it, don't you? Elias shook his head slowly, his hand tightening on hers. No, he said. I regret nothing. I survived because of you, and now we live because of each other. The bond pulsed warmly between them, no longer heavy but alive. Liara's eyes shimmered, tears finally falling. Then we are not only bound in chains, she whispered. We are bound in choice. Elias allowed himself a faint smile, rare and hard. Choice or not, he said, I'll carry it, and we'll face whatever comes next together. They left the chamber, the cave walls humming faintly as if watching them go. Outside, the storm had calmed. The wilderness stretched endless and cold, but Elias no longer felt the chill burning his lungs. The bond shielded them, fire within the frost. The mountains loomed, the snow endless, but the hunters were gone, at least for now. Liara leaned into him as they walked. Her glow faint but steady. Her voice broke the silence. Soft but certain. They will come again, others will follow. My people will not stop. Elias's jaw tightened. His eyes on the horizon. Let them come, he said. They think the cold will break us, but together, we are fire. The wilderness stretched before them, cruel and endless, but Elias no longer felt alone, no longer felt human weakness pulling him down. He felt strength, not only his own, but hers. Bound into his soul, they were no longer man in exile, no longer two broken lives. They were something new, something eternal. And as they vanished into the storm, their hearts beating as one, the legend of the first binders was reborn, not as a curse, not as a failure, but as proof that in the cold wilderness, humanity could not only survive, it could endure forever.